Good afternoon, everyone. Let me see if people are back. I'm not sure yet. Okay. I just want to check, colleagues, if you're back online. I'd like to check whether okay, great. I think colleagues are back online. Very nice. Thank you. Um,
Marisol, please, we need 5 minutes, please.
sorry. Hello. I assume that you are back online. Great. Thank you. No one's in line yet. No one's in the room
Marisol,
yet. Hi,
you
Mr.
can hear me,
Yusuf.
please?
I can hear you.
Please,
Yes.
we need 5 minutes, okay?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Okay. No problem. Okay. So I hope people are back now in the room and we can start. So the earlier we start, the earlier we finish. Okay. Can I ask people in the room to call your colleagues back so we can start already quite soon so that we finish also on time? We only have the interpreters until.
Marisol, please, Marisol, we can start now.
Okay, we can start now. Great. Yeah. It's also important that we start on time after lunch because we only have the interpreters up to a certain time as well. Like they will finish at a certain time. So we should start also on time. So welcome back.
Okay,
Uh,
please, we can start.
we can start. Okay. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. I hope you had a good lunch, by the way, and some time to walk and rest as well. Um, it's really too bad that we cannot join you and be there to meet you in person. All right. So I hope you had time to look through the group work exercise. And before I forget, I always forget. Maybe I should a few things I remember now that I have to do. Um, First, let me ask Chi to come on board and explain about the DSA in case people have questions about the DSA and your tickets, etc. For returning. Chi,
Uh,
please.
Thank you, Marisol. Hello again, everyone. I hope you had a good lunch. Just to flag on the DSA, we have a focal point person who should be in the building on the final day of the training. That's on the 1st of July on Thursday. He'll be there, Mr. Mohammed El Jahid. He should be there to with the list to give everyone their DSA. So I would like to kindly request that if you flew, like if you came by air, can you kindly bring your boarding pass, like a copy of your boarding pass or the actual boarding pass to give to him. And if you came by road, if you have a receipt or a bus ticket or something to signify, if you can kindly give it to him on the final day of the training. So we'll also remind you tomorrow so that you don't forget to bring it on Thursday so that he can collect it. So once he collects it, he will give you the DSA. It should be in a card format where you can withdraw the money, and then it will come with the PIN code and everything and all the instructions. If you have any problem, you can just ask him directly, and he'll be happy to explain further to you. So the DSA is calculated using um, UN calculations. So for people by road, It will calculate per mileage, then people by air. It's 20. It's discounted. It's not full DSA because we are providing the accommodation and all meals are being covered by us. So the DSA that you receive is just for incidental expenses and local transportation. That's about it. So tomorrow, hopefully, we remind you to bring your boarding passes or your tickets or some form of identification of your travel to give to him, and then he will give you the DSA, and then you would have to sign so that we know that you actually collected the DSA from him. So I think that's all, Marisol.
Thank you very much. So that's on the last day. If you have any further questions, you can write to Chidima by email directly. And then, but also please consult the logistics note that we provided because all the information about the DSA is on the logistics note. Okay. All right. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. Um, okay. So I think you can now see my screen. Yes? Shidama, can you verify?
Yes, we see it.
Okay. So we're looking
Wow.
at group
Okay.
work exercise number 1. And the objective of the exercise here is to review what we have been discussing based also on the presentation of Ministry of Oil about the types of hazardous waste, including hazardous chemicals that are generated in the upstream oil and gas sector in Iraq, and then also reflecting and discussing together on the existing national procedures and systems for classifying hazardous waste and chemicals. Okay, so we will work in teams by tables. Okay, I will check how many tables. Can you confirm to me how many tables there are in the room? I don't know, Mr. Youssef, can you let me know how many tables there are in the room?
Should be 8.
Ooh,
يعني احنا نقدر نقسمهم 5 جروبات عمل.
I need the English translation
Think we can divide them to 5 tables.
into, actually, I would prefer, can we divide into 4 tables? I mean, 4 teams, sorry. Can we divide into four
Okay.
teams?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so let's divide into 4 teams. So that maybe will be like two tables per group, and then if you can just bring your chairs together so you can have a good discussion. So we'll have 4 teams. Um, And then in each team, you have to elect one person who will document either in the flip chart. So there should be flip charts available in the room, or somebody with a laptop, and you can type the discussion into the laptop, the final discussion outputs into the laptop. And then you need to elect one rapporteur who will present the discussion highlights on behalf of the group. Okay. So it's now 1:30. So I technically you have until 45 minutes, but let's see whether you can finish in about 35 minutes and we can start the group work presentation. And then we will continue tomorrow morning if needed, if we're not finished with the group work presentations. Okay. Because we're now a bit late.
صح.
And we only have the interpreters up to a certain time. Now, and then what you have to do is identify the major types of hazardous waste that is going to be generated, that is being generated in the upstream oil and gas sector. So list your top 5 or even top 3. Top 3 is okay. Top 3 most hazardous, what you consider the most hazardous waste. So 3 to 5 most hazardous waste that you know about that is being generated in the upstream oil and gas sector. So you have to agree. So whether maybe it's the chemicals used for enhanced oil recovery, or chemicals that is being used for treating associated gas, which creates a lot of sulfur waste, for example, and then so anything that you would consider the most hazardous waste being generated. Then I would like for you to discuss together whether these, when you identify them, each of them, whether they are covered under the current national legal frameworks and regulations or under the BRS convention. Okay. And then please discuss whether your national procedures and systems for classifying the hazardous waste, and what are their strengths and challenges. So this one, the section D, is really talking about the classification system that you are applying for hazardous waste, and what are the strengths and what are the challenges or gaps in the current systems for classification of these hazardous wastes. Because if I recall from our discussions with government counterparts, that there's a lot of mixed wastes that are difficult to classify. So how does your national systems handle those mixed wastes coming from the oil and gas sector? And then what are the strengths of your system for classification? And what are the challenges or gaps in your current system for clarification? Okay. So you will produce your discussion, you will produce a table like this. So you can create a table like this. First, you're going to have 3 columns. The type of your top 3 to 5. It can be top 3, or if you have more, then you can put more, up to 5. The most hazardous waste that you consider that is being generated in the upstream oil and gas sector. Okay, so your top 3 to 5. And then for each of the wastes that you identify, discuss whether it's covered under national laws and regulations or whether it's covered under the BRS convention. So either say yes or no, or if you're unsure, you can mark unsure. Okay. Then when you're finished with that, you will turn to section D, the question on section D, to discuss the existing national procedures or systems for classification of hazardous waste. What is the current system for classifying hazardous waste? And what are the strengths of your current systems? And what are the challenges or gaps in your current system for classifying hazardous waste? Okay. So that's the group work for today. Okay. And it's meant, the idea is to stimulate discussion, so we can identify where there are gaps or opportunities for supporting the government of Iraq with regards to your waste issues. Are there any questions regarding the group work?
لا لا اوكي، كل شيء واضح بس.
Okay, please go ahead. And
لا بس افتح
I don't have the translation right now.
Here, he just didn't say anything in Arabic yet. He was just, I think, talking to someone else, not in the microphone anyway.
So can I have any questions from the floor?
اوكي. لا لا استاذ سعد، هسه احنا نقسمها، بس لا سمحتوا لنا احنا هاي الاستماره.
We are just going to distribute. You have a questionnaire. It's like a brainstorming. We are 4 groups. The first group, so he's dividing the groups. So a representative to present after half an hour, or rapporteur. So Mr. Ali for the first group. Second group, Mr. Mohammed Najmuddin. We have different companies, so depending on each company, they have different kind of work. every group will discuss within themselves, and then we will discuss together at the end. So you will be the rapporteur. He's asking a lady. Sorry, I couldn't get the name. So Hossam, another group.
First, let's take 30 minutes to see if you can finish the group work. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
And then we will come back for presentations after. Okay.
اوكي تمام.
All right. So I will come back in you should receive the group work exercise in your email.
هذا
You
بس
can
العفو.
you should receive this document, PDF, Iraq group work exercise in your email.
اوكي اوكي تمام. اساتذه العفو، بس استاذ سعد هاي سجلتوا شنو المطلوب؟ لو نعيده؟
Record what we need, or should we repeat? If you allow, he's asking them whether he wants whether they want to repeat the instructions. I think he's going to repeat it in Arabic. So discussing what are the hazardous wastes and deciding on 5 or byproducts of any of the production process. As for the environment as well, in their field visits, what are the wastes that they think are the most hazardous. So even if you find them, decide them, maybe your colleagues here can help you. At least, so you would state whether they are under the BRS or not. The second thing is the classification. What are you using? What system of classification are you using? The regulations and laws. So the national regulations or laws. So we have the environmental laws. We have also dealing with the hazardous materials, and also in the classification, we are talking about the challenges and the gaps in the classification. So we have 4 points to be met. So the types of wastes, whether they are under the BRS, whether there are laws and regulations, and then the classification. It's if there are things that we don't have, then we have to put them as well, because anyway, they know what we have and what we don't have. So, but we need to put it down.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Very good.
اوكي اوكي Marcel, thank you.
So I will keep my screen on just in case.
استاذ استاذ سعد، حسام، استاذ محمد، بعد 5 دقائق.
We'll start in 5 minutes.
I think we should start wrapping up now. Are we ready?
Marisol,
I can hear you.
Marisol, we need only 2 minutes, please.
Okay. Okay.
اوكي. استاذ سعد جاهز؟ اوكي. استاذ حسام.
Are you ready?
اساتذه العفو. يلا يعني نرجع شو اسمه. السلام عليكم اساتذه. بس هسه خلصنا الجروبات حتى نبدي كل ممثل جروب يقدم يعني صار المناقشه عليه، وبعدها ان شاء الله حتى نختم اعمال اليوم الاول يعني بورشه العمل. مارسول.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Now we will start with the first group.
Okay.
Okay. I invite Mr. Walid.
How do they want to
حتى من يمك،
present?
حتى من
Are
يمك.
they presenting in a flip chart or working in a document?
No. In table. Okay.
Okay. Please go ahead. We can already start then.
اوكي.
Yeah.
وليد.
Okay. يلا استاذ
وليد
وليد.
اسماعيل
بس
عماره.
استاذ اذا بس شوي الصوت بس اذا سمحتوا لنا. تفضل استاذ.
وليد.
Yes, please. My name is Walid Ismail Omara, the Oil Development Center, Ministry of Oil. Regarding the type of hazardous chemicals, first, depending, first in the order of hazard, first oil spills and then damaged chemicals, and then third the water and organic drill products and the muds resulting from the manufacturing operations, and then fifth the empty drums. This is by type of chemicals. Regarding the legislations for oil spills, law number 84 of 1985, this is the Iraqi law. And for damaged chemicals, law number 4 of 1989. And for drill fluids and muds, this is the Environment Protection and Enhancement Law. This is Law 27 of 2009. For sludge output sludge and the drums, this is for the River Protection Law of 2001. And the categorization or the classification by hazard, the classification would be according to international conventions such as the Basel Convention and also the MSDS, and classifying of the materials according to their threatening of the Iraqi National Security Council. And this is based on the recent conditions of ISIL. And so this is an Iraqi classification. For the challenges, first, we have the lack of legislation and laws.
التحدي الثالث هو
Second is the lack of financial allocations. And third is the rise of cost, and fourth, the lack of specialist human resources in these fields. The weakness, the strengths, there are several ones, which is the absence with the existence of a database of the chemicals, and also these reports of the inventory of chemicals in oil companies, and some of them are monthly and or quarterly. And third is the drainages for these oil companies to discharge these chemicals. It might differ from one sector to another, the manufacturing from the refineries. Finally, there was a study conducted by the Ministry of Oil for the treatment of oil spills and developing a mechanism for treating such spills. Thank you.
I didn't catch everything because it was I don't know whether it's quite fast also in the translation, but I would really appreciate if you put it in writing. So if you can work on that after today in the evening to type up your discussions, okay?
Okay,
So that we have a record of it, of what you provided. Okay.
Yeah, I will share it with you by email for
Okay.
all groups.
Yes, okay. So I just have a question on the classification system. You have the MSDS, you mentioned the BRS convention, and then you mentioned Iraq classification system. Can you just elaborate again on the third classification system, the Iraq one? What is that? What it was? What did you refer to? For the class, you said you were talking about how you classify hazardous. You follow the MSDS, and you follow the BRS convention, and then you said there's a third Iraq classification system. What is that classification system?
نعم الأستاذ علي مسؤول عن هاي فقط.
Mr. Ali will answer this question. Hello. For the classification of these materials, it's basically based mainly on the MSDS, but starting 2014 and with the rise of ISIL, the security forces instructed to classify these materials according to how they threaten the Iraqi national security. And there was a technical team by all the ministries headed by the Ministry of Oil and the Ministry of Health and Environment, and all the chemicals were classified according to their usages, and also how these materials are imported as primary sources for other materials that may threaten the national Iraqi security. And so this was adopted by security forces, and as well as the Ministry of Trade, in licensing the importation of such materials for using them in oil industries.
Clarification. It's much clearer now. So group 2, team 2. Can we get the team 2?
Yes,
So I will ask team 1 to write, to put it in a document. Okay, your discussion points. If you can put in in a document and you share with us by email. Okay. So team 2.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. تحددنا.
Hello, we identified 4 classifications of materials that we thought that are of significance, and when we arranged them, and we didn't arrange them by hazard, but by their impacts and their relevance to other environmental aspects such as the climate change. So we first selected the associated gases, which is the H2S and S2S, and their movement and their influence on the climate change. For example, methane greatly affects the GHGs and the climate change, and the oil sector in Iraq has a lion's share in the methane impact on climate change. It's covered by the laws that the Team One has tackled, which is the Environmental Protection and Enhancement 27 of 2009, especially the chapter that has to do with air pollution, as well as the national emissions determinants that set the allowable emissions from the industrial activities, and it's greatly covered in the law. Second, we selected empty metal and plastic drums because of the huge the huge size of the problem, because it has been accumulating over tens of years, and one year after another the volume is so great, and some locations are like a collection point for these materials. Also, they are covered by the Iraqi instructions, and most importantly, the polluter must pay according to the Iraqi legislation, and the owner of such drums, by law, have the responsibility of finding a solution, either by returning the material from which it imported it as raw material, or to using it as licensed material. A third is the drilling mud and cuttings, and this is also covered by law, that any material is not allowed or may not be discharged into the air, soil, or water unless they are treated in accordance with the law. And fourth is the oil spills, which is a huge problem in the oil sector, whether through terror activities or for theft, or for compromising the pipelines, especially in environmentally vulnerable areas. And these have been covered by the Oil Spills Committee, sponsored by the Japanese JICA agency. And along with the Ministry of Transport, they have developed a national plan for the inland and offshore oil spills. And so it's covered by a comprehensive study on how to handle oil spills. Part two, that has to do with the national legislation of Iraq that classify the hazardous wastes. Most importantly is, in addition to the law of environment, we have law number 3 of 2013, which has to do with the hazardous wastes. It's law number 3 for 2015. This is how the speaker says it. Which has been completed by relevant authorities and experts from these 9 ministries. And then we come to the strengths and weaknesses of these classifications according to our short experience in such a short time, because we hope that our conclusions would not be inconclusive, because it was a too short time. So the threats would be all the sorts of hazardous waste, and those organizations who produce hazardous waste, they have to have in place emergency plans to deal with or to respond to hazardous waste incidents. Also, it included the handling and cleaning of empty containers, including the drums, and also obtaining the approval of the Ministry of Health and Environment before conducting any treatment of such waste. Also, the law obligated organizations with hazardous materials to prepare special records and analysis results, which is continuing documentation. And one important thing about these instructions is that because of the security conditions in our country, that hazardous waste areas in government or residential buildings, access to such areas is not authorized unless for authorized personnel only. And these material or these wastes is isolated. I won't mention where, but the access there has to be authorized, and the laws are comprehensive, but of course nothing is imperfect. And here we come to the imperfections or the weaknesses that our team has mentioned. So they said that the laws are comprehensive, but the enforcement is poor. So the law is good, but the enforcement is poor. Other things include that regarding the empty drums, there is a mechanism for such drums is that they should be washed 3 times at least in order to clean them up. And these liquids should be collected, but our observation is that the required checks have not been mentioned so that we can release these drums. Also, it hasn't mentioned the competent authority to conduct these analysis to ensure that these drums are totally free of hazardous material, especially if they have any carcinogenic or any gene mutants. Also, it didn't identify the chemicals used to wash the drums. The instructions were somehow general. So, for example, if the drums have engine oils, so can they be washed with specific fluids, and then these fluids would be collected and discharged and would be treated as industrial wastewater, or should it be considered as industrial wastewater or not? Also, experiences are still poor in application. Maybe there is good experience, but the practical experience is not there. And the examination and control equipment are few, and the experience on using it is not great. The last point has to do with the upstream pollution, and it has to do with all the contaminants in the oil and gas sector, and it has to do specifically with the dual-use materials, the control and how to regulate the handling of dual-use chemicals. So there is a committee which is called the 7D committee, which has regulated the use of dual-use materials, and as well as those materials that threaten national security. So this committee also has strengths in that it identified the materials, and they have channeled international conventions in terms of the annexes. And so when these materials are regulated, they would be stored in a special store, and they would have only authorized personnel would have the keys to access such materials. And so it identified the materials that are restricted to be imported into Iraq or restricted to be used. And the weaknesses of such legislation or such committee included many ministries, some of which are irrelevant. Sometimes there is like 18 representatives of one ministry or agency, so maybe the effective number would be much less than this. And finally, instructions of number 4 of 1989 on the storage and handling of chemical materials. So they are comprehensive instructions on health and safety and the environment, and it included the classification of chemical materials into 9 classifications as per the international classification, and it included several specifications and details on storage requirements. And given that it's an old law since 1989, some of our colleagues have indicated that maybe you can build storage with the sandwich panel. Maybe the interpreter is not familiar with this, but this is a material that has a foam isolating or insulating material, but the law of 1989 sandwich paneling was not very common, and so the law needs to be updated to include these sandwich panels. And finally, the last weakness of this instruction is that it didn't include the mechanism to handle spills. It just imposed on or obligated the laboratory to have a drainage for a separate drainage for the discharge apart from the other liquids in the water, but it didn't identify a mechanism for handling such discharge.
Here, because I'm looking also at the time, and I don't think any is there a group that documented their discussion into a flip chart or a Word document or a table, or you didn't have time to do that?
السلام عليكم.
Who has no, because if no one has their discussion points written down, then I will stop now. I will stop the presentations now, and then I will ask all of you to write down your discussion points in flip chart or in a Word document, to follow the table that I shared, because it will be easier for us to also follow and document, because then there's a lot of information that we cannot fully capture. So it's better if the groups document their discussion in a table. So I shared with you the group work. Let me show you again. So what we would like to have from the groups is this table, or it can also be in a flip chart. So you can prepare, if somebody can prepare in a Word file, this table like this, where you list your top 3 to 5 hazardous waste, and then you say whether it's covered under national laws or regulations or whether it's covered under BRS. Okay. So we need for you to put this down in writing so that you can share it with us. So email it to us or prepare it in a flip chart. Okay. And then we will hear from the remaining groups, the remaining 2 groups tomorrow. Okay.
Okay.
Did you understand?
Okay. Marisol, please, we can share the email. This is the
This has been this the group work exercise was shared by Chidema by email.
okay.
Okay,
Okay.
that's why I mentioned you can check your email, and you should find the group work exercise
Check with email.
document PDF. You see the table, and then you can Chidema,
Okay.
maybe we can reshare it. Just reshare the Word document so they can actually copy and paste the table. It'll be easier. If you
Okay.
want to work in a Word document, you can copy and paste the table. So we will reshare the files. And so you can write down your discussion points. Okay. Hold on, let me stop sharing this.
Okay, Marisol.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Yeah, regarding this, the group A and B, we will write down this comment. Okay, and complete it in afternoon and send that to you by.
you send it
Okay.
to us by email, or they can work in flip chart, and then we will have the two other groups present tomorrow morning. Okay, and then meanwhile,
Okay.
for all of you, if you can reflect on some of the key lessons you learned today, anything that's new that you learned that you didn't know until today, so that would be useful for us to share tomorrow as well. Okay, so I will ask you what you have learned, what was a new information you had today that you didn't have before today. Okay, so I'll ask people to share some of the key lessons or new knowledge that you learned, so we can have a discussion tomorrow. Okay,
Okay.
so please check your email. You can also download the files on this platform for all the PowerPoint presentations. So everyone has the login details. Everyone in the logistics note, you have the login details to Interactio. So when you are back in your room, and if you have a laptop, you can use the login details to access the platform. And then you have the files, and then you can download all of the presentations from here. Okay, and then we will also send you the final PowerPoint presentations at the end. Okay, so before we close off, I had asked Yvonne, I don't know if Yvonne is still online. If you could just take 5 minutes, Yvonne, to just show us a little bit about the BRS website. I don't know if you're here with us. There you are. Um, so Yvonne, if you're there, you go. I think you should have the floor. We lost her a bit. There. Okay, let me give you the floor. There.
Thank you.
So
Thank you,
can you just
Marisol.
take 5 minutes to just show them what we were discussing earlier so that they know exactly where to go if they need some guidance?
Absolutely. Yes, and I'll do it relatively quickly because I would imagine everybody's quite tired. Let me just share my so I'll share the actual screen, and I have open already um, some of the website pages. So perhaps first of all to go to the Basel website page. And on the Basel website page, I hope everybody can see that now. It should say national legislation.
Yes, I see it. I
Yes.
see it.
Okay.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. And this is just under the tab that says countries. I'm really sorry, the website is only available in English, but there are certain documents that are also available in Arabic. So here you have a whole host of information, but if you wanted to look for example, texts of national legislation, you could click on this tab here.
And I've already opened up for us, selected Iraq, and we have there the texts of what has been sent to us so far. We also have a list of country contacts. And here also I've found the Iraq context for us. We have, I think, the focal point, Ms. Isra, with us in the room. So that's great. But that would also be under the countries tab. So if you go under countries, and there is a country contacts tab there. So you can access that. That also, if you go there, it also gives you access to the national reports. And perhaps just to give you an idea of, because it's true that there are not many people who access the national reports as such, but this is the national report for 2019 that was sent by Iraq, and what I had opened there were the disposal facilities in a table 2. But if you went to the top, you would see it has information about the competent authority, about different measures for control of wastes, about any import restrictions, and then the facilities are in the tables 2 and 3. If you were ever looking for
Guidelines, like where do they
publication,
go for, like specific guidelines on classification of
yes,
hazards? Yeah.
yes. So we have the publications under implementation, and there at the very end there's a tab on publications, and it's all on its own to try and help make it easier to access. And when you click on that, the publications are separated into different sections. So the brochures and leaflets are just easy to use, very short documents. If you were looking more for the technical documents, for the guidelines, it would be either the guidance manuals or the technical guidelines. So if you were looking for example, the Basel Convention technical guidelines on used oil re-refining, that would be under the technical guidelines, and I'll be introducing those a little bit tomorrow. There are also, for example, the guide to the control system and the manual for which you can access from here. If you are looking at reporting, there is this benchmark report, which gives you an example.
Okay, I think we lost Yvonne, or she got kicked out in the system. Yvonne,
اوكي
hold on. So it gives you just an idea of where to find. So we can come back to that. I think we lost her for she doesn't have
بس
Wi-Fi.
بس نخلص بس ممكن هاي الدقيقتين 3.
Have 2 or 3 minutes, please, before we end.
We'll stop there. I just wanted her, Yvonne, to show you the the BRS convention website where you can go to find the contacts of who is reporting on your behalf, and also for for publications. Any guidelines that you're looking for would be on that website. And then Yvonne mentioned that you can contact her directly if you have any questions. Okay. So over to you, Mr. Youssef. Go ahead. We can wrap up for today.
اوكي ثانك يو مارسول. سيداتي السادة طبعا
Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the first day of the workshop, we would like to thank uh, the UNEP and thank you for your attendance. And then as for the questionnaire, we have received it by email, and the groups, or tomorrow morning we can finish it and send it by email. So in the morning, we'll finish also group 3 and 4, and we will ask you to take 1 or 2 minutes to tell us what they have benefited from from day 1 and the relation to the convention. So we will start at 8:30 tomorrow, and you have the agenda before you. So thank you very much, and Marcel, thank you very much.
Thank
Yes,
you for being there
okay,
as
thank you
well.
for, I appreciate your efforts. Okay,
Thank you very much. So we will see each other tomorrow at 8. Let me see. Let me just check to double check.
at
So we will 8 o'clock. Yeah, we will log in at 8 o'clock.
8:30. Yeah,
8:30.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, you can start working at 8 to
8:30.
finish
Yeah,
your presentations, and then at 8:30 we start. Okay.
okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Yvonne
Yeah,
and Chidima. Yeah, and
thank
Mike
you.
and Mike Cowing. Thank you. Bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you. See you tomorrow. Thank you. يلا يعني. شكرا اساتذه، نكرر شكرنا لحضراتكم. احنا ان شاء الله باكر ب8:30 نبدي بالمجاميع ونكمل وياهم. شكرا.
Dear organizers, dear Yvonne, if you are still online, could you please give me a sign? And because that's very interesting, I'm not sure why did you were kicked off in the middle of the sentence. I see that your connection quite well. So could you please try to raise hand or
Hi, Glee. Is that you talking to us interpreters? Okay. Okay. So we may leave. Okay. Okay. Yeah. See you tomorrow. Thank you. Okay. Bye.